Lo siento, today I will be speaking in English. En los Estados Unidos, toda la gente habla American. So, lo siento, lo siento. Today I will be talking about consensual software and prioritizing trust and safety, or anti-harassment tools. So I'll start with a short story. I live in San Francisco in an apartment. And one day, my neighbor from downstairs comes upstairs, knocks on my door. She says, "Do you have dogs?" I say, "Yes." "Oh, 2 dogs." She says, "Oh, can you keep them on the rugs? They're very loud. Their nails are scratching on the door." I said, "I'll try. They're a little bit troublemakers, that one especially. So I will try." She says, "Okay, thank you, Danielle. I really appreciate it." I go, You're welcome. I forgot what her name was. I didn't remember what her name was at all. And so, like a good millennial, I Googled her. And the only 2 points of information I had were her face and her address. And so, with those 2 pieces of information, I was able to find the deed for her house, found out her parents were the ones who had purchased it, and then gave it to her in a trust. And then I was able to find her full name, went on Facebook, and wasn't able to find any pictures for her, but I was able to identify her using an air vent that she had posted a picture of inside of her apartment, and that air vent matched mine. So this is all publicly available information. And that's because everything nowadays is shared by default. And if you want to be private, if you want to be safe, you have to opt into safety features. And I'm here to argue today that they shouldn't be that way. It should be the opposite. So my name is Danielle Leong. I work at GitHub, and I am an engineer on the community and safety team. Promise I won't Google any of you. I swear. But you all can find me. My Twitter handle is right down there. So a lot of people ask, so what do you do? What exactly is community and safety? Well, first of all, what is GitHub? GitHub is I don't have these stickers today. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. I'll send some over. Like the one sticker I forgot to bring was this one. But as we all know, we are all technologists. We know communication in text form is very hard. If you've ever had any kind of fight over text message, you know you meant to say one thing, and then the other person heard another thing, and then pretty soon you're arguing back and forth, and your thumbs are hurting, and it's much longer argument than it really should have. And so my team, we strive to build systems that empower inclusive and healthy communities, much like this one. This is an excellent event, and encourage good online citizenship. We want to discourage behavior that is destructive or threatens personal safety. So we want to build healthy and inclusive communities, and we want to make sure that everybody in those communities feels safe and included. So we've been around for about a year. Some of the things that we have built are already available on github.com. If you use it for open source, you probably are already using some of our features. Repository invitations. For example, I'll go over these a little bit later. User blocking APIs. Organizations have the ability to users. Basically, if you have ever been bothered by a person, we make sure that you don't ever hear from them again. We also build healthy communities as well. But it's an unfortunate reality in today's world that if you're online, anytime you have a user-to-user interaction, you're going to have the possibility of harassment. And that's just a reality. And I'm on the team that says you shouldn't have to have that kind of thing. There are many different types of online harassment. These are some of the more well-known, shocking types. For example, posting personal information is also called doxing. So posting your government ID number, your address, your your credit card information, as well as hate speech, swatting. I don't know what the equivalent is here, but sending a SWAT team or sending a fake bomb threat, and then the authorities come and knock down your door. death and rape threats, dogpiling, personal attacks. These are all some of the more well-known ones that we see maybe on Twitter, we see on Reddit, and a lot of different online forums. But there was also an example that we saw on GitHub, which is before our team came along. Everybody uses GitHub, yes? Yeah. Okay, so we have repositories, and you could add whoever you wanted to collaborate on your repository. But you didn't have to get explicit consent from them. And so there was an example of somebody would create racist repository names against black people, against Jewish people, and start adding people to these repositories. And that would show up on your news feed, and it would look like Danielle joined terrible, terrible organization. And, you know, as technologists, job seekers, job employers are often looking at your GitHub profile to see what you're up to. And this can affect your job search if somebody sees that you've joined these organizations. But because there was no explicit consent to join these organizations, it looked like you were endorsing these types of projects. And so one of the first projects that my teammate did was repository invitations. Has anyone seen this? Received an invitation like that? Yeah. So now you either say, yes, I want to join this, or no, I don't want to. So if somebody is spamming you with a racist repository name, you can say, I don't know this person. Go away. Block them immediately. So that's some of the stuff that we do here. I heard some feedback from another talk that I did that it's a little bit different here in Europe, where the gender balance is a little bit different here. But on the internet, women still get harassed daily. Women still deal with a lot of problems just trying to exist. And because we work in the internet, pretty much, we can't leave the internet. It's not like we can just escape this. This is where our jobs are. This is where our careers are going. And so women of color, and transgender women face harassment daily simply for existing in a place where our careers live. And so as a result, we've had to become experts in online safety. And if it sounds like I talk about women a lot, it's not just because this is a conference celebrating women in technology, but it's also because women tend to be harassed the most on the internet. Something like 60%, I think, face severe online harassment. I don't have exact statistics today. So my team looks a little bit different from your typical Silicon Valley team. Silicon Valley is very much like the show. I can't watch that show. But my team is 70% women, 40% women of color, and 30% trans women, and 30% white men as well. So some tactics, for those of you who don't identify as women, these are some of the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis just to try and get through the day and to try and survive Twitter. I never use my full name on social media, except for Twitter, because I use that for work stuff. Not using real photos for avatars. If women have their gender revealed in their GitHub profile, their pull requests are rejected about 30% more than men do. Turning off location tracking data. Regularly Googling your name, address, or phone number just to make sure it's not out there. Usually is. You should probably Google that. Using a burner phone number. If I have given you my phone number, it's probably not my real one. And if it is, then we're probably using something encrypted like Signal. I also use P.O. boxes. I don't know if the equivalent here, but an anonymous post office box. Turning off direct messages wherever possible, and not live posting social media during vacation. So if I'm not physically at home, then nobody should know that I'm not there. And we shouldn't have to do this on a daily basis. If half of your users are creating their own workarounds to try and stay safe, imagine what it's going to be like for the future generations. Do you want to have to teach your children that they shouldn't be posting pictures of air vents in your apartment because somebody like me is going to find them? No, we shouldn't have to do that. And it's our job to write software that protects vulnerable people. We've all gathered here today because we want to celebrate the different types of people that are in technology, that are in the industry that we all love. But if we're failing to protect half of those people, then we need to do better. So some examples where safety hasn't been a default is Facebook Messenger. When Facebook Messenger first launched, geolocation was on by default. And that meant that you could pinpoint a sender's location to less than a meter. And there was no way you could turn it off. And so this guy created a Chrome plugin that would scrape his friend's data, publicly available again, scrape his friend's data and be able to figure out what their weekly schedule was like. He could protect when they went to the gym, when they went to work, when they were home, and if anything kind of deviated from that. And also in today's political climate, particularly in America, which hopefully I can go back to, it's also become very, very dangerous for groups of people. For example, Venmo. Everybody know Venmo? No? No. It's kind of like PayPal, where you can send money to your friends, but they have sharing on by default. So you can see which one of your friends is sending money to one another. This is, again, publicly available information. Same guy, don't be friends with him. Same guy created a Chrome plugin to scrape publicly available data, and he found that because universities tended to use Venmo for membership dues, he could actually find the member lists for ethnic, religious, and cultural associations on campus. And if you have bad intentions, that can be a very, very dangerous source of information. Again, publicly available information. But free speech. Americans love the concept of free speech. I don't know why. I'm here to argue that harassment is not free speech because it silences others. The concept of free speech is that everybody should be able to say what they want, and people should be able to walk away when they can't. Unfortunately, well, that's what I just said. Unfortunately, not everybody has that ability. Women, for example, have to deal with a lot of different harassment on a daily basis, so they can't actually escape. If you're calling them a bad name, and someone else is calling them a bad name, and 20 other people are calling them a bad name on a daily basis, they can't shore up their defenses quickly enough. And so it's our job to make sure that we can build them time to rest. And also, like I said, death threats and rape threats are kind of an unfortunate everyday side effect of being a woman on the internet. And all I'm saying here is if you threaten somebody on the internet, you should have consequences. If you threaten somebody in real life, usually the police will come and take you away. And I'm saying on the internet, this should also be the same. It also costs a lot of money. If you don't take harassment seriously, it will cost your company several billions of dollars. Disney, Salesforce, and Google all declined to purchase Twitter because they did not do enough to handle their harassment on their platform. People also leave their platform. If they are getting harassed on a daily basis, there's really no reason to be on that platform, and people will vote with their feet and leave. This is a study by the Pew Research Center. It says that more than half of app users have uninstalled or decided not to install an app due to concerns about personal information. Because lots of apps tend to overshare by default, people are starting to notice, and they're starting to decide whether or not they want to handle that anymore. Safety features shouldn't be an afterthought. This leads to years of technical debt. GitHub, for example, has been around for 8 years, but my team has only been around for 1. With 7 people on a Silicon Valley salary, it's very high, too high. Imagine that's a lot of money for 7 people to be working on the problems that other people left behind. So design software with trust and safety in mind before it becomes a problem, before your company becomes the next, I hate to say, the next Twitter, before your company goes into the news for harassment. And the very first thing that you need to do is have a set definition of harassment. If you ask 5 of your colleagues what their definition of online harassment is, I guarantee you that everybody will have something slightly different. And if everybody doesn't agree on what online harassment is from the get-go, then you're going to have severe problems going forward. GitHub released our community guidelines, which outlines what our definition of harassment is, as well as what we expect from different communities on the internet. And that took 19 months to do. So, and we have a dedicated team that does this. So you should probably start now. Might take you a while. But we do have a definition now, and it is our definition of harassment is destructive behavior that undermines productivity. GitHub, at the end of the day, is here to help you write code and to help you be productive. So anything that is disruptive is not what we want on there. We also want to make sure we call out behavior, because somebody can have a very bad day and say something mean to somebody else, and maybe the next day they didn't really actually mean it, and then we want to make sure that it's easy for people to learn from their past mistakes. We also want to be explicit about what types of harassment and against what groups there are. It's not good enough to say, don't be an asshole towards another person, because people's definitions of what an asshole is can vary from person to person again. So you want to be explicit so that there is no argument down the line. And so we make sure we call out age, body size, disability, ethnicity, gender identity and expression, level of expertise, nationality, personal appearance, race, religion, or sexual identity and orientation. These are all subject to change in the future, but this is just a base level line of what we expect people to be respected for. We also want to make sure that we design with stalkers in mind. I have the unfortunate reality of having a stalker, only one, not too lucky. And if you have a feature, you should probably think to yourself, how would a stalker use this? How would a very angry ex try to use my feature? So Square Cash is another PayPal-like app. Usually, anytime you have money involved, there's probably going to be some kind of harassment. I don't know why. But somebody's ex would send her $1 every month with a harassing message because there was no block feature on Square Cash. And I'm sure the creators were like, why would anybody turn down free money? You know, I like money, you like money. Well, somebody wants to send me money, sure. But they failed to think, what happens if a stalker or an ex finds out that somebody's on this service? If somebody doesn't want to talk to you, you should be able to say, I don't want to talk to you. The other way around. So this is how we design software. We want to make sure that we start with trust and safety early on. And here's the framework for our thinking when we create new products. So first of all, we want to make sure we ensure explicit consent. We want to keep an audit log trail, and we want to strive to minimize abuse. So first of all, we want to make sure we build consensual software. Now, usually when we think of consent, we think sex, right? We think yes means yes and no means no. And that's a fantastic thinking. Everybody should have that sort of thinking on a daily basis, but it also appeals to software as well. So consent means all parties involved are aware and able to agree to an interaction, every interaction. There is a fantastic video on YouTube called Consent is as Easy as Tea. Say you make somebody a cup of tea and you offer it to them and they say no. Don't make them drink the tea. Don't pour it down their throat when they're asleep. Don't show up at their door a day later and say you want a tea. It's the same thing with any kind of consent in any kind of situation, particularly software. We want to make sure we have an explicit and excited yes for everything. And that involves any kind of interaction on your site or service. So consensual software means all users are aware and explicitly consenting to every interaction and disclosure of their personal data on your site or service. So making sure that everybody knows what's going on and they're able to say yes or no. We want to make sure that we get that explicit yes every single time. Because if you don't, if you assume consent, then people will leave because it'll be viewed as a breach of trust. And if you lose somebody's trust, it's very, very difficult to get it back. So let's do an example. I flew here from San Francisco. And did you know that airplanes can now let you chat with other people? You can actually talk to other seats in the airplane. Yes, exactly. Every time I see that, I go, why would you possibly build this feature? So with that in mind, first of all, you should probably ask yourself, is this feature needed? Probably not. So we want to make sure we ensure explicit consent. Now that somebody on your team has decided we are going to build chat features on airplanes, I guess we have to go forward with this. So let's ensure explicit consent. An example of this, again, is repository invitations. You want that yes or you want that no. Don't assume that somebody wants to participate by default. So let's say Bob wants to message Alice. Does Alice want to talk to Bob? Probably not. You should give her the opportunity to not let that happen. Is it safe to block Bob? If you are in an enclosed space, in a tin can several thousand kilometers above the ocean, and you are now stuck with somebody who is very creepy 3 seats behind you, is it safe to tell this person you don't want to talk to them? Exactly. No. So you should probably get explicit consent before and not let this happen. So as we said before, if you are stuck with a creeper, you don't want to, you shouldn't have that interaction in the first place. And also, how much of Alice's information is revealed if she reports Bob? Let's say Bob becomes increasingly more forward and creepy, and she reports him, and let's say the report goes to the stewardess or the flight attendant. And the flight attendant says, "Excuse me, Bob, but this young lady up here said that you're being a creep." Now he knows she's the one who reported him. Now he knows where she sits. Now he knows what she looks like. He may not have known that before. Let's make sure that that kind of interaction doesn't happen. Now is the section we talk about dick pics. It is an unfortunate reality that on the internet, if you allow any kind of, yes, there's nodding in the audience, if you allow any kind of images in any shape or form, I'm actually honestly surprised there's no penises on the board upstairs, any kind of images whatsoever, there will be dicks. I don't know why, that is just something that happens. So make sure you have some kind of filtering involved, or don't do images at all. Tinder is actually a fantastic example for this. Everybody know Tinder? Yes, dating. Yeah, it has a bad rap, but for a good reason. And so Tinder only allows you to use a select group of GIFs from Giphy. It doesn't allow you to upload your own pictures, exactly because of this. So if you allow images, be aware, there will be penises. It's just the internet. Like you have to think about this ahead of time. Even on places where you can't upload images. I don't know why, but Lego Universe, which is a video game for children, had a problem. And they have an entire team dedicated to making sure that they have algorithms to find the dicks that people are building in the universe. And I don't know, they have an entire team that does this. Minecraft, which is another video game, they're fine with it. They say, you know what, it's gonna happen. Okay, as long as the percentage is like fairly low, it's okay. But because Lego is a family-friendly brand, they said, none whatsoever. And so they have an entire team and a lot of resources dedicated to making sure that they can find every single one of them. People are very creative. Please don't do that. It's that poor team. Even if you're not a human, you're probably going to get harassed on the internet or be taught how to be racist. Microsoft's AI bot, Tay, was actually released out onto Twitter, bad idea, to learn how to be a human. Terrible idea. And they had to shut it down because users would teach it how to be racist. Terrible idea. If your sample data is coming from Twitter, be very, very, very careful about it. And if you're not human, you'll probably still get harassed. Don't know why. Virtual assistants like Siri, Cortana, and Alexa generally all female names, and there's also teams there that specialize in making sure she doesn't get sexually harassed. People get paid to do the weirdest things. Okay, so going back to our chat example, let's bring it out of the airplane, and let's say it's just on a regular website. So is it easy to create sock puppet accounts? Sock puppet accounts are just throwaway accounts that somebody can say like, oh yeah, that person agrees with me, and so does that person also agrees with me. So these are throwaway accounts to make one person look like they have a lot of followers who also agree with them. This might go against a lot of user growth data that's out there, where they say it should be as easy as possible to create a new account. However, that does lead to a lot of harassment. And if you are making any kind of product decisions about your website, then you should make sure that you take this into consideration. Can you introduce friction to discourage destructive behavior? Is there any kind of machine learning that you can do that says, hey, did you really mean to be sexist? Did you really mean to say something racist? Maybe you should stop, take a break, go outside, have a cup of tea, maybe have a sandwich, and come back and see if you really meant that. I hope to build that one day. And also, is it easy to learn from mistakes? People have bad days sometimes, and sometimes they just snap at people, or they use a word that they didn't know meant something else to somebody else. Make it easy to learn from people's behaviors. Not everybody means to be a terrible person. I've been a terrible person on the internet sometimes. Make it easy for people to learn from their past mistakes. Also, keep an audit log trail. Support people are the unsung heroes of our industry. They do a lot for us. Make sure that it's as easy as possible for them to have context for what's going on. If they receive an abuse report, it should be easy for them to figure out what happened and where the trouble started. If you don't keep clear audit log trails, then it's very difficult for them to figure out what's happening. If you can edit a piece of content, or if multiple people can edit a piece of content, make sure that it's clear and easy to see who did what edits. And also, how many people have reported Bob? Has half the plane reported Bob for being a creep? Maybe we shouldn't let him fly anymore. And then lastly, we want to strive to minimize abuse. Are you limiting zero-day account activity? Remember, if it's very easy to create accounts, then you're going to have a lot of accounts that have just started today. Do they have the same privileges as fully fledged accounts? Is there a waiting period that they need to go through in order to make sure that we have verified that they're a real account? Are you rate limiting potentially abusive accounts? Again, with zero-day accounts, it's very easy for people to create them, throw them away, create them, throw them away. We want to make sure that our users are actually engaged, and sometimes that means you have to limit the amount of activity that a zero-day account can use. And if you have a reputation score, how is it calculated? Is it easy to game? Is it easy for people to create bots to upvote their friends, even though they don't have good standing in the community? So I wrote a blog post about it. It's up in here. If you just search for GitHub engineering, community and safety, it should pop it up here. But it's basically a lot of the same stuff that I just went over in slightly more detail. Everyone good? Okay, all right, cool. These are excellent books. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about online harassment and building anti-harassment tools, I highly recommend these books. The Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy, I recommend to anybody, not just if you identify as female, because it's really eye-opening to see what a lot of people do on a daily basis to try and stay safe. These are also excellent books as well. Haters and the Internet of Garbage. All right. We good? Good? All right, cool. So just to recap, make sure that you have a set definition of harassment. Make sure everybody, or at least the majority of the company, agrees with you on what that definition is. When you create new features, make sure you follow our guidelines, which is ensure explicit consent, keep an audit log trail, and strive to minimize abuse. And also make sure that your users are aware and explicitly consenting to every interaction and disclosure of their personal data on your site. Just like the laws over here about cookie usage, you should also be using that with your own site. I know they're annoying, but at least you know what's going on. And lastly, hire more women of all different backgrounds in your community and in your company, because we are experts in avoiding online harassment. We've had to be. It's an unfortunate reality, but honestly, if you want experts in online harassment, there's a bunch of us here. So yeah, that's it. Any questions? No? Cool. Thank you.